So if Hank Williams were alive today, what do you think he'd be writing songs about?
I think they'd still be about very basic aspects of the human condition. I think he wouldn't. I didn't think they would necessarily be like topical. You know, he wouldn't be writing about pop culture or politics.
Okay.
Or I wonder if he might ever have, if he were alive today, if he might ever have taken on a political inclination in terms of, you know, like Dylan, you know.
Yeah.
Whose politics seems to express itself very quietly in songs like "Blowing in the Wind," you know.
For sure.
I wonder. I do wonder.
For you, I mean, obviously you worked very hard to master the music and the voice, and you know you play piano, so you certainly have a musical background.
Yeah.
Which of his songs was the most difficult for you to master?
Lovesick Blues.
Okay.
No question.
Why is that?
The chord progressions are much more complex than many of his other songs. Most of his songs, Move It On Over, I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, Long Gone Lonesome Blues, I Saw the Light, the Honky Tonk Blues, My Bucket's Got a Hole in It. The chord progressions follow a very basic blues template
Okay.
of 1-4-5. You start on an open E, and your second chord is an A, and your third chord is a B7. Simple. Lovesick Blues is about 7 or 8 chords, and the yodel jumps so dramatically from in pitch, and you have to hit that yodel in a split second, right in the pocket. And so because also, like anything, whether you're riding a motorcycle or riding a horse, it's all about a mixture of control and freedom. And so playing that song, I had to be so technically in control of the guitar and my own voice, and yet free enough that it rocked. So that was the challenge.
I'm glad you mentioned yodeling because I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but I've read that you mentioned that it is something that is satisfying. Can you elaborate on why yodeling is satisfying?
I don't really know.
Okay.
I think it's a very well. The thing about singing is that we listen to music so much now. It's so much a part of the fabric of our lives, but in a very remote way. We listen to it on our phones, on the radio, on Spotify. But actually, if you sing, it's a very physical experience. If you personally sing,
Even for those of us who don't do it well.
Right. Yeah. And so yodeling is it's a strangely cathartic emotional release because it's a very joyful sound. It's got it's a joyful expression of longing, as you know, on Long Gone Lonesome Blues, for example.
Mm-hmm.
He is basically singing about feeling lonely and alone, but it's got this fantastic yodel which sounds great. I'm going to play it for you right now.
And then I jumped
Listen to
in
this.
the river, but the doggone river was dry. She's long gone, and now I'm lonesome blue.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do, actually. It's a great example. One thing that struck me about the movie is that, I mean, he's such a contradiction because country music can be so uplifting and so spiritual, but
Yeah.
his life just really didn't play out that way. And for me, I guess you could say it was one of my favorite scenes, but it's one of the most well done in the movie is the scene where Audrey Mae has just gotten an abortion.
Mm.
And Hank comes to confront her, and they just are so at odds with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, is a scene like that, is it as emotionally draining as it appears on screen? Because you definitely feel that in the audience.
Yeah. I mean, the pleasure of it as an actor is that I'm opposite someone as accomplished and open as Elizabeth Olsen, who is able to simply just to put herself in Audrey's situation with such intense empathy and compassion. The bouncing of the ball over the net is what gives you a strange, perverse pleasure in what you do. But for both of us, we were very relieved when the scene was over because we have an obligation to step inside that despair for a moment, and experience it.
Okay, so among other things that are not nearly as dark as Hank Williams' life, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about Loki.
Sure.
So, who do you think he's rooting for? Is he on Team Cap or Team Iron Man?
See, I think, let's not forget that both Iron Man and Captain America were unkind to him in the Avengers, shall we say.
Indeed, yes. Let's put it mildly.
So I don't know that Loki's going to pick sides anytime soon. I feel like he's sitting on a rooftop somewhere with a big bucket of popcorn, amused that the children are playing. And I think he finds it delightful that they've fallen out, and has a front row seat, a ringside seat, as it were, for the big fight.
Oh, I didn't even have to ask the second question then, but related to other appearances that you've done. So, who do you think is having a tougher time of it? Loki being being denied the throne of Asgard, or Cookie Monster when you're doing the delayed gratification thing where you just can't have a cookie? Who's in more anguish?
Probably the Cookie Monster. Yeah. Cookie Monster with no cookies is a very, very sad Cookie Monster. Let's face it.
Yeah, well, I feel bad for him.
But he got his cookies quicker than Loki got a throne.
Very good point. Last thing I think I want to cover is just have you channel your British nature and background related to country music and other things. So basically I'm going to give you a list, and I'd like you to try and tell me what the British equivalent of that is.
Okay.
So I think this would be a piece of cake for you, honestly. So, I mean, some serious, some not, but what do you think the British equivalent of country music is?
Folk music.
Okay.
I think it's Irish folk music, Scottish folk music, the stuff you'd hear at a ceilidh,
Yeah. 10-gallon hats.
10-gallon hats. What is that? We've appropriated so much American culture that you see people in Britain walking around wearing baseball caps and beanies. What's the equivalent of 10-gallon hat? Probably a flat cap. Yeah.
Cowboy boots. Is there a footwear that...
Oxford brogues.
Okay.
No, that's actually a contradiction in terms. I think Oxford shoes.
Okay. Why? Just in terms of their connection to the culture that they come from?
Yeah.
The Kardashians.
Oh,
is there
goodness.
British Kardashians?
No, they are their own. They're their own different, extraordinary species.
LeBron James.
David Beckham.
Okay, it makes sense to me as someone who's big into sports. The Walking Dead. Is there a British equivalent to that?
Does it have to be zombies or just a popular TV
no,
show?
just in popular. How it started as a cult following.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, it's not on a network. It just comes. It just has an organic rise, I think
Sherlock.
you could say. Okay, it's one I've been meaning to watch myself. Deep dish pizza. It's a very Chicago thing.
Fish and chips.
Okay, last one. Justin Bieber. Is there a British Justin Bieber?
One Direction.
Okay,
Surely it's
makes sense.
the One Direction guys. Any one of those guys.
That might have been the easiest one.